Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the first Concordia webinar. This is the first webinar of a series on diversity and cybersecurity. And the first webinar is about women entrepreneurship. And my name is Elena Ferrari, and I am a professor of computer science at the University of Insubria in Italy. And I'm co-leading with my colleague Barbara Carminati the task Women in Cyber in the Concordia project. So before leaving the floor to the panel and the webinar moderator, I just would like to say a few words about our project. Concordia is a big project, an H2020 project. And the goal of this project is to build the European Cybersecurity Competence Network. And for doing that, clearly we have to connect different stakeholders. So we have a big consortium, which consists of university, research centers, big companies, and also medium and small companies. And within this project, we have this task, Women in Cyber, because we strongly believe that we need to do as much as we can to fill the gender gap in the field of cybersecurity. This is not, the gender gap is not an issue only in the field of cybersecurity, but it's an issue in the general field of ICT, but in cybersecurity is even more urgent to fill this gap. So first of all, I would like to invite you to visit the website of our project Concordia, because we really would like to engage with all the people that can contribute to fill this gap. The other important point that I would like to raise is that I personally think, and also in Concordia we share the same vision, that when we are doing with diversity and with the issue of increasing the number of women in cybersecurity, this is not only a task that should be done just by women and for women. We really think that we need also the involvement of men, because otherwise we will fail to fill this gap, because they are the majority of the workforce today. So we need their collaboration. And this is a value, is an idea that is also shared by all the people that are working in Concordia. So it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this panel, Alyosha Pezic, that share our view that it is not only a women task. And I would also like to thank all the speakers for accepting our invitation. Thanks very much. So I leave the floor to Alyosha, and I really thank all of you for attending the panel and enjoy the rest of the webinar. Thank you. So Alyosha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elena. I'm honored and proud to be. I hope I'm not the only man. I did not see the audience. If there are more men in the audience. In any case, in this panel, I will be moderating. I think it will be a very interesting panel. Just briefly to say who are the panelists and what we will be talking about. So we have Paola Bonomo, who is an angel investor and non-executive director. You can see full CV on Concordia webpage if you go to agenda. Luis Bautista, regional sales manager at the Green Bow, and many other roles in the past. Again, I invite you to check her LinkedIn profile and also the CV on Concordia webpage. And finally, Sara Colnago, co-founder of Swisscan. No, sorry, Sara, I did not pronounce it correctly.
It is Swisscan. I can drop the correct name into the chat.
Yes.
As someone is already seeing, I'm the one that is typing messages, because I take just a few seconds to say, hello, is anybody there? Please drop us a message or let us know that you are there with us, because it is a strange period for everyone, and I think that we are not, for fortune, used to this kind of communication. So for us, it will be more easier if you drop some lines, some messages or questions, so we can see that you are following and that we have someone on the other side to talk with, because it's not a chat between us, because we already know each other. And I think that the great thing of the technology is that we can communicate on both the direction. So sorry for this, and I will leave the
right side of your screen. Here you have a chat, and please post your questions, because I think microphones are you're not able to ask questions during the panel sessions. But please, if you put them in the chat box, we will raise this question at the end or in the right moment. So
we have Austria, Greece, Michigan, Italy, Germany. It's beautiful. Keep on coming. We want to know where you are connecting from.
Excellent. So the full name of this webinar is the Women in Cybersecurity Entrepreneurship. So we are facing triple challenge, I would say. First of all, the cybersecurity and entrepreneurship. There are not so many startups specific for cybersecurity, not so many investment funds, not so many venture capital specialized in cybersecurity. Then we have challenge of women in cybersecurity. And here there are a lot of facts and figures that we can name, but the gap, for example, according to the Commission scoreboard in Women in Digital, the gap is quite big. There are about 3% of female students in ICT. And then we have the gap and challenge in women and entrepreneurship. That is, so we have like a triple challenge and triple the gap to address today. We will likely not have time for everything, but we will start with questions. And I think we already discussed a couple of the issues that we want to discuss. And at the end, there will be time for questions and something like let's say the additional topics to discuss. So I will start with the, let's say, top level, at the level of board of directors. Paola, you are a non-executive director. So how security has moved from a technical domain to topic which is raised at the board of directors in a large companies? And how do you see these changes?
Alyosha, thanks for the question. I have had experience of sitting on a number of boards over the last several years. And I can say that even before I started in this profession, this was a hot topic, starting from maybe some of the highest profile cybercrime and cyber attack cases that involved corporations. So if you recall, in 2011, the Sony PlayStation network was attacked, right? And that was almost 10 years ago. And if you kind of scan the history of cybersecurity, especially in the corporate world, you see, enormous corporations that were targeted, such as, for example, Home Depot and Target, that lost customer records with payment cards data. So that's financial information. Sony Pictures Entertainment. Sony, again, in 2014 was hacked. They had to change the release schedule of some movies. And this also actually brought into the light a very interesting anecdote. Actress Jennifer Lawrence found out from this, data breach that, actors' compensation data for different movies that Sony was producing was leaked. And she found out that she was paid less than her male co-stars. And so there was a big case in the media about why are women actors paid less than men actors. But again, if you move through history, Experian, Equifax in 2015, 2017, 3 years ago in 2017, a major container shipping line, Maersk, was paralyzed for several days due to what you will recall as NotPetya, a particularly interesting form of ransomware, right? And then in 2018, Marriott Hotels and Starwood, again with compromised customer data. Just this year, March 2020, EssilorLuxottica, one of the biggest companies worldwide and the biggest in eyewear and eyeglasses, was paralyzed for several days and wasn't able to correctly restart operation until they fixed the aftermath of a major cyber attack. And I have to say that, this highlights for board of directors not just operational risks, but also reputational risks, because your reputation is at stake if you don't manage your cybersecurity affairs correctly. And if you just look at things like GDPR and the importance of protecting customer data, what happens in terms of sanctions if you are the victim of a data breach because you did not put in place the appropriate procedures to protect your customer data, you can be fined by authorities in the measure of 4% of your worldwide revenues. We're not just talking about European revenues. Take 4% of worldwide revenues, and that is a significant fine that no boards of directors want their company to pay. So yes, it is a topic that is not just on the table of things like audit and risk committees, which is a subcommittee of the board, but of the whole board. And if you are a manager in a company, your board members typically won't know more than you do. They will know less than you do, but they will ask questions. And so you have to be prepared as a cybersecurity manager in a company to answer all of those questions to their satisfaction.
Thank you for this answer. If we now move from the board level to the startup ecosystem, Louise and Sarah, what do you think? You are in startup ecosystem, Louise, you're in France, and Sarah, you're in Italy, so you know these ecosystems quite well in ICT in general and cybersecurity. How do you see shift here in investments and in the number of cybersecurity startups in this as a percentage of the cybersecurity, as a percentage of overall?
Yeah, I can bring my experience into the cybersecurity startup ecosystem. In this period, we live in a moment in which we have a great opportunity of attention of the market, related especially into cybersecurity, starting from what Paola said, related to the attention and awareness, fortunately, that the GDPR regulation brought to this kind of matters. And investors, first of all, are seeing a great opportunity of business because this is their job. They do this kind of things. And the great opportunity that we have is that in this field, in ICT, but in cybersecurity specifically, we have a lack of competencies. And if we have competencies, we don't have the magical situation that brings it into a startup or into a real project, because all the world of the startup is is full of great ideas, but that are not allowed to be put in place. And this is a significant gap that brings you into the you can do it field or into the magic wonderland of yes, you could, you should, but you're doing nothing. So this is the first message that I would leave. So please try to get the things done, because this is the first step to really put in place a startup. So don't be afraid. Okay, we have also someone from India, so great. We are really international, and this is quite amazing. I think that in a real in-person event, this could be quite difficult to reach as a result. I think that we can be quite proud of that. So just
okay,
a distraction of the chat. Yes. Sorry, but I really would like to get this kind of panel interactive. So the focus is that in this moment, venture capital are really interested into the cybersecurity ecosystem and the cybersecurity startups, because they see a great opportunity of business. And on the other hand, great companies are not only focused on the tech side of the ICTs because they need this kind of competencies into the enterprise, but they are quite afraid of the bill that they have to pay if they don't keep in place the cybersecurity measures that are required from the GDPR. The same is for the small and medium enterprises, because another effect on the field that we say as a startup that has a service specifically for small and medium enterprises is that they don't know what they have to do, but they understand that they need to be compliant and that they have to do something about this GDPR. But when you approach explaining what cybersecurity means in, let me say, in a pragmatic approach, they understand that, okay, it's something that I really need, and it's something that I think is good to improve into my company. So I think this is a key to manage this kind of moment.
Thank you. Louise, please, in France, you have been in several startups. What is the situation? How do you see the change in the shift in the situation?
I totally agree with Sarah. It's that investors in France are looking, like I think in all Europe, more and more startups to found in cybersecurity topics, and it's not the stereotypes you can see before. I mean, hackers, for example, now are doing great startup and are raising a lot of funds. And also in the subject of the startups, it's not only technical aspect, but maybe also others topics in cybersecurity, like, for example, all the education, because we need to make sensibilization to people. So this can be also a product, but also with all the companies, they assure for the risk. And something it's in cybersecurity, but also in finance. So it's important to see that it's plenty opportunities in different topics in cybersecurity. And I think now in France we are a good example for all women who want become entrepreneur in cybersecurity, because only weeks ago, a woman, Elena Ponce, with another CTO, raised 20 millions in France for yes, a cybersecurity company. So I think it's a really good sign that girls can do it also, and with huge amounts, because of course it's really important to start a company, but raise funds, it's also really important to be seen about, to be considerate about politics, other companies, and to be taken seriously. I think it's a really important subject. We have to advise and give mentorship for women in cybersecurity, is raise funds. It's really important. And I will put in the chat studies about it that created in France, like, for example, organization with women who are business angels, and studies about women that can raise funds in tech. There are a lot of initiatives in France and in Europe, so much opportunities.
Thank you, Liz. I will stay with another question. Stay with you, because I saw in your page in LinkedIn that you studied. Now that you mentioned education, that you studied law, international relationship, military school, and business school. So I was particularly interested to hear your experience in military school. Did this help you with something with entrepreneurship? Is because I'm asking this because in some countries, for example, in Israel, they usually put this link between the high percentage of entrepreneurs and military service, where they learn cybersecurity skills. Did you learn cybersecurity skills in military school? Or?
Yes and no. I think military gives you a mindset, like to be paranoid, to be effective. And so it helps me a lot every day with cybersecurity, because it's a good mindset to have, of course. But I think it's something really common because, for example, the woman who I was talking before, Elena Ponce, she worked like for 20 years for military services in France. So it's something common in France that people in military then go to create a startup or also work in cybersecurity. I think it's something we can see also in Israel. It's very common. So yes, I think the mindset is important, and also the curiosity, because to make lot of studies different give you the curiosity and the capacity to adapt yourself. The only thing I didn't study at school was technique, cybersecurity, but because I love it so much, I study it with MOOCs. And I take a time to stalk people in forums to learn. And so I think everyone can do it. Just you have to start to interest you.
Thank you. So the role of education is obviously is important. Paula, can you tell us about the role of parents and the other people, and why girls and young women should dedicate themselves to the cybersecurity?
Yes, absolutely. I am a member of an organization called Inspiring 50, which runs basically competitions that highlight women in technology around Europe and elsewhere in the world. And our motto is, if she can see it, she can be it, right? If a young girl or a young woman sees a woman who is a firefighter, then she can think, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to become a firefighter. And the same way, if she sees a woman who is a cybersecurity entrepreneur, she thinks she can do that. So the importance of role modeling in popular culture, in newspaper, on television, in movies, in video games is phenomenal. It's phenomenally important that we expose young girls and young women to these types of role models. Of course, now we are, depending on where you live, still, fighting stereotypes. And we still have schools with textbooks that, in teaching language or mathematics or whatever, say that the mother is cooking dinner and the father is working in the office. And this is not obviously the example that we want to set to our children. So I think we have different levels to intervene. And I think what we're realizing at the same time is that, of course, people decide what their professional aspirations are when they're in high school or university or whatever, but they kind of form their mental models much earlier. So middle school or even elementary school tells you what you can be and what you can aspire to become. And so we need to work at all levels with, schools, teachers, families, media, producers, and so on to make sure we hit basically the entire funnel, right? Because otherwise it's very easy to fall off the funnel of saying, okay, I'm going to learn some technology skills. I'm going to learn that I can be a business owner and can set up my business for myself. I can involve partners, I can raise money, and so on and so forth. And unless we give those messages at every step of the way, it will be hard to change the current state of affairs.
Thank you. Are there other opinions?
Yeah, I would like to underline what Paula said, because we have the recent experience of the CEO of Yux, a male that decided to left his role because he decided into the family that it was the moment to support his wife's career.
That is Zalando. That is a different company.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm not a shopping addicted, so sorry. The same market field.
It's a German company, yes.
Yeah. But I think this is quite a great example of what we are saying, and that maybe something is changing. And I would like to also underline another message that I founded a cybersecurity startup, but I studied psychology. So you don't need a technical background. Of course, it helps, and of course, it depends on what you're doing. But what I always say is that there is no better hacker than a woman in love. And you also have to consider the human factor, because cybersecurity is such interesting and sexy matter, because you have a mix of technology and human factors. And so it's something that changes continuously. And another point is that you have always to be updated, to study, and to be aligned with what is, and look outside and look a step ahead on what is happening into the market, into technology, into the field, into the world. So I think this is something really, really interesting, and it's something that it's never equal. So you have, of course, some fixed points and best practice, but I think that creativity is something that we really need to put into this field, and who better than women that could do this kind of job.
Louise, do you want to add something?
I think all is told. I totally agree with the condition and the necessity of role model for new generations. So that's for what it's really important webinar like today. I think for students and for women who want to create company in cybersecurity.
Do you think, because Sarah, you are co-founder of your company. I don't know the rest of your time. I know Raul. I think he's from technical perspective. He's one of the co-owners or co-founders. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, I was thinking about this discussion, hard versus soft skills. So typically, the technical guys, they are not very good in communications, or technical. It could be also technical women that are not good in communication. Doesn't have to be really this split. So, but I was thinking about entrepreneurship, which is done by lone riders, by do-it-yourself. That one person that wants to do everything, to control everything, kind of control freak, versus splitting the role of between different roles, business roles, communication roles. Of what is the situation in your company? What do you think? What is the advice?
Oh, so first of all, don't think of a company made by only one person, of course, because I can't do anything without my team or without my colleague, and the same for them. So, and it's not a matter of role, but it is a matter of personality, let me say. So I'm the not shy one. So I'm the girl who shows up in every occasion. Also because I really take seriously the theme of the role model. So each time I can show my face and say, "Hey, girl, you can do it." It's something that I don't miss. So I think it's not related to what you want to do, but the culture of entrepreneurship is something that must be improved also for this, because if you want to set up a company, you cannot do everything by yourself. Otherwise, you are a consultant or something different. So making a company and starting a business is something different. So you need different competencies, and maybe you don't have everything by yourself. So maybe you have to buy a service from outside the company, or maybe you have to hire someone, or maybe you have to find a co-founder that completes your skills or what you need. And you need to focus on what it is the core of your company, of your business, and what is important, that it's the added value that you can bring into the market. And this is the core of the company and what you need to keep inside. All the other things
Paola, can I ask, sorry if I interrupt you, can I ask Paola, because you're as an investor, do you also, before investing in a company, do you look at these factors, human factors, and you say, okay, I see here a team which is, complementary, which is communicating good with, there are like extroverted people like Sarah, and there are, so what is the weight of this factor, human factor?
Absolutely. So I have invested for many years with an angel group called Italian Angels for Growth. And just a couple of years ago, we started another group that specifically wants to fund women entrepreneurs, which is called Angels for Women. And in both cases, we really want to see a team, right? For all the reasons that Sarah highlighted, because one person who is good at sales is not good at the technical part, is not good at business development or at fundraising or at administration or everything that the company needs. You need different skills, and you need very clear roles and fluid communication among the team. And especially in Italian Angels, which we've been running now for over a dozen years, we've invested in a number of different startups across all sectors. This is mostly tech, but not specifically cybersecurity. And our experience is that, we've made mistakes, but when we've made mistakes, it's never because we funded the wrong project or the wrong idea or the wrong strategy or the wrong business plan. Mistakes were always because we gave money to the wrong team. And we always say that, brilliant team, even with a mediocre business plan, will do something great. And the mediocre team with a brilliant business plan will completely fail. So the team is absolutely the key ingredient in any startup or scale up in the world. And when we make mistakes, is because we have not correctly assessed the team.
And what is your opinion? Because in a discussion previous to this panel, Luis mentioned something which is go big or go home, which is basically to aim from the start, to be the unicorn right from the start.
All right. We have lots of things like unicorns and camels and zebras and gazelles. Now the literature is full of animals, right? But I mean, if you look at this from the investor point of view, first, we want to know that we're not putting money in a consulting firm, just as was said earlier, because that you have to fund out of your own revenues. And it's a good actually thing to do because, in cybersecurity, your customers want to pay you for your work. And so you can do that if that's the lifestyle and the type of business that you want to start. But if you want to bring investors on board, it's because you have a bigger project. And the project is not to be a consultant and maybe not just to be a services organization, which becomes difficult to scale. You need to find something that you can productize and that you can scale in a way that can grow exponentially, even if you grow the resources only linearly. And that's where you create value that will allow investors to have the return that they seek. Remember also that, as business angels, we invest in the early stage of companies. Early stage is an intrinsically risky asset class for an investor. You know that out of 10 companies that you finance, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 will fail. And maybe 1 or 2 will make it big, and the rest will kind of muddle along and muddle through. So the one that makes it big needs to pay the returns for all the rest of the portfolio, right? And that's why go big or go home is something that we like in our entrepreneurs. And we also want to support them in succeeding and making that vision come through. Thank
you. And by the way, I also learned another word today from Luis, which is sorority. I had to look, what does it mean on internet, and I found out that it's equivalent of fraternity, right, Luis? Do you want?
Good, but we can also talk about sisterhood as a general concept, I think.
Same sisterhood and sorority, is it the same concept?
Luis, you want to take that?
I think so. I was telling that in the same meaning that sisterhood, But maybe because in France we try to do something in English, but with French iteration, we say it's sorority, and in fact, maybe the right word is sisterhood. It's possible. But in France we talk about sorority.
Okay, we already getting questions on chat, so if you agree, we can here start answering questions from the audience, because we have like 7-8 minutes left. So we have a question from Tatiana Welser, University of Maribor, if I remember correctly. Do you have some examples about education and startups? Luis mentioned education and startups. Do you have some examples?
In cybersecurity, precisely, I know Sila in France. For example, they have a platform and they train the people, like technical or non-technical, in companies to learn about cybersecurity and became a defender of the company like individually. I worked, for example, for another startup before, which name is Artips, and they are doing micro-learning. So it's about all topic, not only cybersecurity. But why I thought this was more like my sales view about that. It's this year I gone to Les Assises to Monaco. It's a huge event in European Union about cybersecurity with a lot of trendy topics in conference and in meetings. And for me, for my business meetings, we have the priority of the year for all the directors about cybersecurity in the big companies in Europe. And the main priority was sensibilization. And when I was seeing all the companies who participate at the event, there are very few that are working on that topic, but it's a need actually of the director of the group. So I was saying, okay, this is an opportunity. I did not create my startup about it, but I think for a lot of people, it can be a great idea because there are a lot of people that need it actually, and they have budget because they put it like top priority for an international event.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one more question. Well, actually, two more questions. One is from Elena Leoni. She's talking about the interest in a cybersecurity manager in a technical institute. And the question is, which actions can we take to implement and promote position cybersecurity among young students, which are near to choose their future university degree? So
let me try to address that. I think this is very specific to the country and the language, right? Because I think of Italy, for example, or even a place like Greece, many places in Southern Europe. One of the messages I always give young girls is, if you train in cybersecurity and become a cybersecurity expert, you will never be out of a job, right? Because unemployment is very high, and youth unemployment, again, with COVID and everything, is an issue. The fact that you will never be out of a job, I think, is a sensible promise in this field, and I think it's attractive to young people when they think about their future. But obviously, you know, if you talk about this in the United States or in other markets, you have to use other types of levers and work on, you know, whatever happens to be a good argument in that market.
Thank you. Do you think, Paula, by the way, that now that you mentioned this, when you look at the number of female students in ICT, you see Eastern Europe ahead of Western Europe? Actually, there are more female students in Eastern Europe than in Southern Europe also. And
I mean, the data to me is fascinating because you know, Eastern Europe has always had more of an equal opportunity education platform and history for women students in technical fields. But you know, you always have contrasting data. So for example, in the Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland and Norway and Denmark, etc., which are generally considered by, you know, every type of ranking of women's empowerment and women's equality, like the one done by the World Economic Forum. Those countries are definitely at the top of the range of, you know, gender equity with a smaller gap. And it seems that fewer women choose to study STEM matters. So I don't know if it's a matter that, you know, employment is less of an issue there, or it's a matter that, you know, even if there's more equality, they're still discouraged from pursuing those fields. Again, I think this is something that ought to be studied a little bit more, because it's not completely well understood.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We have time maybe for the last question. There is a question, Sarah, maybe you can take the last one. Do you think that returnships will become more popular in cybersecurity fields?
Okay. What do you mean with returnship?
So this is perhaps
a kind of internship, right?
Women who leave the workforce for a few years and then come back to the workforce after raising kids or something like that.
Oh, I don't think this is the right way to see that, but I think that we need to improve the learning and to sustain internship, or to create workspace for female in this kind of field. While Paola was thinking about the data that, of course, are quite complex to read, I was thinking about another issue related to this, that is that while we have a great number of ladies choosing the STEM materials into the university or this kind of formation, they left it during the first job experience, because mainly they find themselves into a male environment that they cannot afford, because maybe they have colleagues that are from a military background, or they are a group of tech guys, and they're not used to interact with a female, and you are one into a group of number of male, and you know, sometimes you feel unconfident into this kind of environment. And this is one of the matter, because we don't have people going ahead in this kind of path into the technical profiles. And
well,
I think that's something that we can do.
If I may, the fact that some men aren't used to dealing with women should not become an alibi, right? There should not be to create hostile environments for women.
Of course, but I think that one of our role could be this one, to create an environment into the office that can allow ladies to enter this kind of roles. And I know that maybe in France, but I'm not sure, there are specific courses to approach as a lady and to provide training to men on how to deal with this kind of mixed environment.
No, I kind of disagree that it should be the responsibility of the women. The responsibility is always with the CEO and with the board of directors, right? If they understand that there's harassment, discrimination, hazing, bullying, or anything like that happening in the company, the responsibility is on the top. It's not on the woman to educate the man. I mean,
of course, I don't mean that. No, I totally agree with you. I don't mean that the responsibility is on women, but that we can underline this kind of situation, and that is something that we can do, because not always, because to be honest, we already know that what is the situation in some kind of, not companies, but in some contexts that unfortunately you have sometimes this kind of situation, and the management is not interested into solving this kind of situation.
Well, management also should protect whistleblowers, right? You all read Susan Fowler's autobiography, right? If management does not protect whistleblowers, that is a serious failing of the company, not of the woman who is the victim of a harassment.
Yeah, of course. But this is something that I think that we can address too.
Thank you. It is really, I think we could continue, especially because we have more questions. We could continue at least for 1 hour or more. but I see here sign which is on your left side on the screen that networking has started. So for all the participants, please, if you click on the icon networking, you will be assigned randomly you will be matched to another speaker. It is about 3 minutes, right, Barbara?
Yeah.
I see that you joined.
Yeah, it's about 3 minutes. Don't miss this opportunity. It's a big opportunity for you to talk directly with the speakers. We are great speakers. With this private call, you can directly ask to the question that you maybe don't want to put on the chat. So don't miss this opportunity. It's only 3 minutes call. You are randomly assigned to a speaker and a speed video chat.
Okay, so we should click on that button too, Barbara?
Oh, no. I think the system will
automatically.
Yeah. I'm very optimistic maybe on that, but I want to today the technology is not on my side. I want to thank you very much for the great panel, to Sara, Paola, Luisa, but Alyosha to take the lead on that. I really appreciate the message that you pass. Thank
you, Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Don't miss the network.
Okay, we stay on the line, see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.